For builders and everybody out there that is, founding a business, you can't have it where the stars are aligned. You can't have it of like, at least in this particular instance with this conversation, it was connecting, my message with broadcasting. This guy was saying, he's worked with several people of where, somebody will write a book, and then as soon as they write the book, then they want to be able to have the conversation to be able to present and promote their book. When he's like, that needed to happen a long time ago. I'll switch to mine. You need to be able to lace those tracks and be able to explain, like, what specifically are you going to do? What are you going to be able to solve? What problems are, that are currently there that might not be able to be solved in the market?
Hello and welcome to the next episode of 33 Conversations. I'm really excited for our guest today, Jon Reynolds. You're over in Phoenix. You reached out, you shared your story, and I'm excited to share that with the world because there's a theme happening here where, life was this one way and it was like, the money was flowing and everything's happening, and then all of a sudden, no more job and you got to pivot. And like the process behind that, that's what this podcast is all about, is talking about how founders are building something that's meaningful to the world that we're excited about and starting our own companies and, living the dream. But like, what is the process from here, this safe little spot, everything's going to work out, I'm going to retire and I die, and all of that, to real life, no more job, now let's go. Like, I am so fascinated by this conversation and I want to hear more. Jon, tell me about you're like a little bit about you and your pivot point that was the spark for this the journey that you're on.
Well, first off, Michael, I got to just say thank you for having me on. I appreciate being able to have a moment to share the story. Hopefully it'll be something that would be beneficial for others as well that's kind of going through the same, general situation with it.
Yeah.
A little bit of information about me. I've lived out here in Phoenix since 2009, originally from Michigan. I've got 3 kids, a lovely wife, and I have been, for most of my adult career, been in tech sales. Have had a lot of successes with it. I've really enjoyed that, not only from just the accolades and the presidential clubs and stuff like that, but also, the monetary portion about it. I was able to have a situation of where I got promoted from just being an independent, contributor, like an account executive or account manager, up to where I was the head of sales. Built a team out and was helping in part with a business that was originally, when I came on board, probably about $4.5 million in reoccurring revenue to, we got up to $33 million before I was done.
Wow.
But it was interesting as we were, talking a little bit prior even to the show, you can find yourself in a lot of different circumstances. I've always been that kid, originally, and then that guy of where I always had to have a side hustle. I was the kid with the lemonade stand. I sold Airheads in junior high. I always had to have where there was, that side hustle that was going. But when I was an adult, especially these last, let's say 10 years or so, it's still that itch. It's still that wanting to build something. You might also say portions of it might be that just general imposter syndrome, but I think that's a pretty easy cop-out, at least with my particular instance I was finding myself in. As of probably about a year and a half ago, I found myself in those golden handcuffs. It was one of those of where, I wanted to start this additional business. I wanted to work on this additional project. I wanted to have it where we could do, whatever it may be. But then I look at what my hourly rate was, and it's like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I could spend, months trying to get something off the ground that might equate to zero, or I could just work an additional hour and I could make more money than that anyway. And it was interesting that was where I was being held up at until I wasn't.
Until I wasn't. I got a question though. Did you ever feel before this happened, because I've been coaching people for a really long time, I know there's always like a whisper and then there's a tap on the shoulder before the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. Did you remember any of those sort of leading up to the carpet getting pulled out from underneath you?
Well, I don't know if I could specifically say that. I mean, it was probably in those, general veins per se. Company I worked for, it was the 19 times that I got threatened to be fired was not a big deal. It was the 20th one that got me. But it's just kind of, it's just what some people deal with when you're dealing with small businesses and stuff. You might have a volatile CEO or something like that. But what I will say, and I have not said prior to this, I thought I was one of those where I couldn't be let go. I was too much of a staple. And I have found out in certain circumstances I was, but they decided to, rip the Band-Aid off anyway. And it, I guess, tore a lot of flesh for that company too. They just found out a year later. But at least of where I found myself, I went from, I don't have the time for this. It doesn't really make sense to, I've got a lot of time on my hands. I originally got into consulting, but it wasn't anything that I particularly was looking at doing. I left that company, and all of a sudden I found myself as a consultant because investment firms were reaching out to me. They were wanting to get into this particular market. I was working in middleware. They wanted to learn about it. They wanted to learn the independent verticals that are within that market. They wanted to know about the landscape of the competitors and so on. And it gave me that sandbox to where it's like, okay, I can see how this would be beneficial. It blows beyond that imposter syndrome because it's not me trying to present an idea saying, I hope somebody is willing to learn this or at least listen to, wow, they want to know my expertise and they're paying me for it.
Like they saw you.
Right. That was awesome because I feel like those are the training wheels that probably if that was not there, the rest of this would have been far more difficult. But
it's really powerful.
That's been pretty interesting. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been pretty interesting, at least thus far with it. That was a project that probably lasted 7 or 8 months. Afterwards, it was like, okay, I miss this particular market that I was in. It was in the middleware market. And then that was where I met with my brother-in-law, who's a full stack engineer, a buddy of ours that's also a full stack. They work for banks, and was like, this is what I would like to do. You guys are probably going to find this incredibly boring, but boring businesses make money. This is what I think we can do, and I can prove it to you that I can sell it. And that is where this product that we're now working on has been in development and going. It has been a fascinating ride thus far, but yeah, that's where we're kind of finding ourselves at the moment on this one, Michael.
So you're coming out with a new product?
So it's going to be a middleware.
Like what is it? Okay. So just for the people listening that may not know what a middleware product is, just give them a little high-level context just so they know. Because they're probably all using them, but just not realizing it.
Right. So the middleware market, if you want to look at it from the primary, it's MFT. It's Managed File Transfer.
Okay.
It's data movement. So this might be from workflows to automations to integrations. This might be of where one server is needing to get access to data from another server. It might be let's say a mortgage company that's needing to be able to get information from the person that's going to be buying a house. That middleware process of where data is moving is what my market was in. So with the company that I originally worked for, and kind of what I saw in the market just in general, all of these companies were trying to focus on the same, single quadrant of this pie chart. They're all wanting to have it where they're only dealing with the biggest customers, with the most users, with the most data, and it kind of feels like a lot of the little guys are kind of left in this situation. The other thing of what I always ran across is from a permissioning perspective, there was just major holes that I was seeing, not only from the one company, but from the market in general, of where banks might need to be able to have additional access. Healthcare might need to be able to have particular compliance controls and so on. And that has been just kind of this fun sandbox that we've been able to work with, is that I'm not coming in fresh on this one. It's something that I have sold. It's something that I have seen all the issues that that has been in the market. And we're able to build it from the ground up. So it's not going to be one of those cases of where, John, I understand that this is the customer request that you have, but it doesn't work with the code that we have, and, tough luck. And so it's been a thing that my buddies and I have been working on, and we are hoping to have it where it's going to be launched mid Q1 of next year.
Wow. Okay. I'm excited. So who would be your ideal, who would this serve ideally?
I have heard that question for years. And the funny thing about it is in this particular market, who we're serving is really any company that has data movement. It really doesn't particularly matter from a size perspective. It really doesn't matter from a vertical or a particular market perspective, because if you look at it independently, it's a single file that's going from point A to point B. There might be particular compliance concerns. You might have to have, FINRA might be a consideration, or PCI, or if it might be like identifying information that's going through. But as long as you have all of the perspective or those particular perspectives in place, and you've got it where those compliances are available, and both sides, us as a company and also the client we're working with is accurately managing that data, there's really not a particular market. What we're looking for is we want to have it where there's businesses that need to have integrations in place. They can simply do it.
So they can do it themselves? They could do it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be the interesting thing with this, because it's going to be a platform. Where most companies in this space don't allow is there's really not room for the solopreneur, the small business, something like that. I would sell plans of where the smallest plan that I could sell is 20 users. Michael, you might be a business of one, but tough luck. You're getting 19 users that you're not going to use, and I don't have a way of selling it to you. And if you don't pay for it, you're not being able to complete, said thing that you're trying to accomplish. In this particular instance, it's really going to be incredibly elastic for what these customers are needing to have accomplished and have done. And they're going to be able to use it to integrate for the most part amongst anything. So it's something that we're excited about there. The other side of it, AI has been the major conversation that's been happening everywhere. We've been taking that into effect as well. So
do you use it? Do you use it in what you build?
We use it for what we build, yes.
But
so
not
we help
in the...
it just from the on a back end standpoint of where we're replicating our data. Where these engineers are both incredibly talented, but at the same time, sometimes it's easier just to say, "This is what I wrote for A. Can you write it for B, C, D, and E?" And then it's minor fixes and might be a couple hours of work versus a couple weeks worth of work. But from a business standpoint, I'm not really sure if we are going to have an AI in the system directly, because my personal opinion at the moment, it's almost overly saturated. It's kind of the fun new thing. And I don't know where our AI would fit versus somebody else. I saw statistics the other day of where 40% of corporations are using a large language model, an AI, within their four walls. 90% of employees use it. So this might, that difference in there, it might be Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, something of that nature, of where it's more of just a publicized AI. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to have it where these companies that are using these internal large language models, or in certain circumstances, it might be a small language model. They're kind of looking at that being more, it might even be more popular than the large language model for businesses, because it's like a simple task manager. What we're looking at doing and put into place is being able to extend beyond those four walls. With this being an integration platform, kind of think that we're the mortar between the bricks. If you've got this corporation being a single brick, and let's just say that they need to be able to connect to their Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, Azure instance, S3, all these different storage solutions. What we will be able to have is there's an acronym called an MCP. I'm a sales guy, so I'm gonna execute the dumb sales guy clause here. I don't know the actual meaning of that particular acronym at the moment, but what it's going to allow us to do is it's going to be able to put safeguards and parameters from that AI extended into these other solutions, so it can't do anything else beyond that. You're able to put all the controls in place so that it can process a particular function that you've designated, and nothing more. Yeah. But it's just been a fascinating thing. I feel like I'm kind of in cutting edge technology, while at the same time I'm not particularly having to work with AI. We're just doing the tools and parameters around it.
But there is something about you give this sense of mastery of through this entire thing about what you're presenting. But so I am beyond fascinated about the human that's underneath that's causing you to operate at that level. Because you're dealing with an extraordinary amount of change. And how do you keep the inside in alignment with where you're at right now? How does that show up? Because I know transformation is messy. I know the switches are messy, and it's the stuff that nobody talks about. It's a scare we're all fear to go through it and or talk about it.
Right.
But how did you do that? You ended up here with this level of confidence that is pretty extraordinary.
Well, first off, I appreciate that, because I feel like I have to make that up sometimes. I'm assuming a lot of business owners, a lot of founders probably deal with that imposter syndrome, or wonder what could be, what if, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. I definitely am susceptible to that, is just the same as anybody else. I think the confidence comes in play of where you've got to look at the logic side. The heart might lie, but it's I can see I was successful in this particular market prior. I can see that I was able to contribute with, not only from a sales revenue side, but also from a product development side. I was able to work with our customer success team, our product team. I was the one that, through a long story, became the sole sales engineer for this entire team, while also being the head of sales. You kind of have to look at those prior wins, and even if they're small prior wins, they still count for something. And what you're doing is you're just continuously stacking up the wins to allow you to get to the next step. And you might not be able to you might not be able to see the entire map. You might not be able to see how far you need to go, but at least if you know what the next step is, get it done. I think that's kind of the way that I've really looked at it, is that
and there's always a next step, isn't there?
Yes.
There's always a next step, right? If you stop, there's a step. You may not be able to see the next one, but it's that one. But what you said, is so, because you said you realized who you were inside that company without the identity of that company. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do, because they think that, so I'll give you the reverse.
Yeah.
I've always been an entrepreneur solo on some level, but there was a part of me for years that thought that the only way I would ever be successful was that I had somebody else in it with me, for safety, for whatever the reason was. Or I couldn't do it by myself, right? But I had all the ideas, but I needed other people to do the things. So that was mine. But I can see when you said that, it's man, I bet if I worked for a company, that would be so hard to leave, not just for the money part, but the structure that thing provided that you're not going to have whenever you leave it, that makes the result happen. And you saw you were the damn result because of the wins that you had accumulated and you were aware of. So a lot of us don't track that, but that's really powerful what you said, because that could be the difference between somebody making it because they just hadn't even had that thought yet to oh yeah, I did win that. I did that. Because it's so hard for me on resumes or anything telling people what I did. And I've done, I've done movie, I've been documentary, I've done all these things. I had all these businesses, did really well. But I let the one thing that failed off the old over all of it, you know? So,
Right.
yeah. So thank you for speaking to that, because that's really, really, you have it, but like a lot of people don't. And I know that if I was listening to this, I would want to know what that was. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Well, thank you.
So,
I appreciate it. I would add one thing to it is sometimes
Sure,
you just
sure.
have to fake it till you believe it yourself.
I was brought up that way too. I mean, I get it, but as an energy
Right.
person and knowing the power of authenticity,
Right.
it's only going to get you so far. And if you're really going to go, you literally have to do that thing that you did. Well, it kind of did it for you, but
Yeah.
you took it and you shifted. That your ability to see who you were inside of that is, I think, made that process. It's what a lot of us, because I coach so many people, and the story is over and over again. The worth wasn't inside of you. I mean, the worth wasn't inside of me or the people that I used to coach. Like, there was a missing. So it was something that we're always trying to fix and put in. But like you had that, it's just a perception, and you had that ability to connect with. So I just want to point that that's really, really powerful, because a lot of people are going through this. I mean, just this week, 14,000 people at Amazon are now having the same conversation. Like, what's next steps for me? You know, like,
Is it 14th? I thought I heard latest it was like 47. I could be completely wrong.
The initial, I did hear that too, but the initial thing that actually is report 14K, and they're execs. So yeah, they're all going to be looking for something too.
Yeah.
And you know what? The world, I don't think there's too many. I think we need all of us. Like, we all have a piece of the puzzle to create whatever it is. Like the things I grew up thinking that were there to support us and take care of us. And that's not true. It's not there. It's plain evident now. Like, they don't even hide it. Like, yeah, no healthcare. No. And yeah, it's like at some point, like somebody just posted they went from like $900 or $93 a month to now $900 a month for their insurance. I'm like, and I just happened to think, like, you know what? Let me just look up. And what the top 3 companies in healthcare was: United, CVS, and I forgot what the other one was. But the top 3 were $37 billion in profit last year. Billion profit. So the problem's not that. The problem is, why the hell do we allow as human beings to allow this to exist? And that it's going to take something, but it's like one at a time. People seeing stories of stepping out of like what life taught us to be, and becoming the thing that lights you up, like how you're lit up about. Because even though I don't know what you got planned going on under there, but I know it's something really fun, because you've got so much passion about it. And the same thing with, I think all builders have the passion, or we wouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, it's also now it's always thinking about what world is going to be here when this is ready to, land. Because it's shifting so fast.
If I could add a portion to that one, Michael, because I had a prior conversation today that hits that perfectly.
Okay.
For builders and everybody out there that is, founding a business, you can't have it where the stars are aligned. You can't have it of like, at least in this particular instance with this conversation, it was connecting, my message with broadcasting. This guy was saying, he's like, he's worked with several people of where, somebody will write a book, and then as soon as they write the book, then they want to be able to have the conversation to be able to present and promote their book. When he's like, that needed to happen a long time ago. You need to be able to, I'll switch to mine. You need to be able to lace those tracks and be able to explain, like, what specifically are you going to do? What are you going to be able to solve? What problems are, that are currently there that might not be able to be solved in the market? And then once you start getting everything laced and that track laid, that's when everything else will be able to propel. But it's not the one night success. It's you have to do all of the work prior to that to be able to make it where it's successful. And I found that fascinating today. You just got to put in the work.
You do. Like, it's nonstop. I've started that same boat. Like 40 hours a week I put into this sets or more since the beginning of February. And I'm like, it took every ounce of that to you just don't know how enormous it really, really is to create something that you do get. First, most people don't even get to the clarity, to get to the solutions, to actually create something that actually works and go through the process of beta testing that pieces and then putting something together ready for people to go into to prove it. And then having it be real out into the world is enormous.
It's exactly it.
It's mind blowing. And to do it alone, because I ended up building my product is called 33 Strangers, and my solution. And it's because I built something that I would have loved to have had whenever I was going through all that. I didn't have mirrors. I didn't have people that understood. Hell, I didn't even know I was a founder. I thought I was just birthing something into the world. I didn't have that awareness. But the reality is, it took somebody seeing me and saying, "Hey, I see you. I want to come work with you because you have you've done the work. I can tell you've done the work because I can see what it is. And the simplest of tweaks is going to take this from nobody buying it and being participated in. Not only that, but not getting the value from it because you can't talk about it." And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. 1,000%. It is very difficult for me because we're too connected to it. But he's like, it's this, and this, and I'm like, hello, got it, done, and it works now. It's just yeah.
It's been fascinating, and I hope people find this as an encouragement. It's one of those of where between me and my partners, we understood where we were going with this, what solutions that we were going to be providing. And I've got an old client of mine that became a really good friend of mine, and he's got a lot of affiliations in the media market. And so we started working, and him and I having conversations with architects and so on. And it's, even though that I don't have a product to launch today, we've got 15 customers and 2 people that are wanting to resell this service simply because they catch the vision. And the vision is literally of just from my mouth. It's not even something that they can physically see as of yet. But you've got to have it where these founders believe what they're being able to provide. I always told my account executives, you've got to be able to eloquently talk about your product, and then you've got to learn to shut up.
Shut up. Yes. Well, it's because I was taught when I'm X generation. So you were taught that if somebody asks you something, you respond to that. You answer the question. And the funny part is when people ask you what you do was the most terrifying or horrifying experience that I could ever imagine, because I'm like, shit, I have to go down this whole pathway to tell them what I do. And it's finally when I got it and saw this lady talking on television one day, and I'm like, she knows how to do that. And I followed her, and I ended up taking a master class from her because I saw she had something that I needed desperately, was able to understand that this one thing, people don't give a shit about what you do. They want to know what you can do for them. And then that shifted everything, took the pressure off. And what I can do for people is I can solve transformation. I can make the damn thing last because I figured that out over 30 years. And the same thing applies collectively with just a few tweaks. But that's a major thing to solve. How to do that for real. But it takes that to do that takes a conversation. It takes enrollment, and it takes clear parameters. I can't half-ass do this with you, but if you understand you want to go from A to B the quickest way and not fall down, you're going to need other people witnessing you, and you're going to be able to retrain your brain to think on who you're becoming, not who you were. Get your past out of your now, and you're free. And when they came to fire you, your past was out of your now. So the process is the process. It's just how we construct it and how we frame it in our own lives that we're the ones that disempower or empower us. So
Right.
There's definitely solutions.
Exactly. I would 100% agree with that one.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating conversation. I love this. So we're end of the year here. We're coming into the holidays. Like, so what is the thing that's like, may not even be your business, but what's the thing that you are feeling that's pulling you now?
Well, I kind of feel like this has just developed everything. So I'm going to have to stick with the business. It's, we're in the final stretches. We're in the final leg of this race and getting everything built out so that we can get to MVP. That has really been the primary focus in that regard. Loving having all the extra time with my family and stuff, just basically working from home for the most part. But yeah, we've got the goal in mind.
Any wisdom that you would give to anybody listening, or maybe just found out this week that they're got to figure out next steps? Like what kind of wisdom that could you give them?
Well, I would say it's probably outside of the business realm on this one.
Please go.
You got to always make sure you have your emergency fund, because who knows what's going to happen. I thought I was dead set in a location of where it would be nearly impossible to get rid of me. And then the next morning I found myself with nothing. Be wise with money, be wise with leverage. Don't take on too many risks, because that can definitely hinder any type of leap or business venture that you might find yourself, with. You want to make sure that you're just continuously in alignment for that. That's at least of what I have personally seen, and it allows you to be, fairly elastic as things come along. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a straight line. You might fall in a valley, and you just got to be able to try to stay buoyant and,
know that's your valley. It's been fascinating. I appreciate you sharing, and we'll keep up with you, and I'm excited for what's next for you as well. But I appreciate you sharing the journey.
I appreciate that. It's if anybody is interested in looking into integration platforms so that they can start dealing with data movement and so on within their own business, the landing page is finally up. It's going to be Mochila, MOCHILA.app.
Awesome.
And what we're going to do as well is it's at the moment it's an email catcher. Just if anybody's wanting to keep up with it, if they have any interest in knowing of where the business is going, and then once we get to the point of where it's going to be launch time, we're going to have promotions and notifications and stuff like that going on.
All that stuff. Okay, I get it. And I will also have all of your information in the description below, so everything they'll be able to contact you and know all of the things. So, yeah,
love it.
I love it too. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure today. Yeah, absolutely.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been really fun. So I hope you guys got a ton out of this. I totally did. I'm so excited. I'm going to look up all these letters and know what all of this stuff means and relate it back. So I'm like, yeah, I know what this stuff is too. I love learning. I love learning new things. All of the AI, all of the stuff that I've had to become while I was doing this process, because as you know, you got to do your passion, but you also got to do all the other shit too to make it all work until you get to a point where you're like, the world can't see it. So I appreciate that part of the journey too. It is a part of it. And wherever you guys are at in your journey, watching along, 33 Conversations is about founders, helping founders, because one day you might just find yourself in a position like John that we had to figure out like what the next steps are. And we just want to let you know that there's a community out there to support you on who you're becoming. So until the next time, much luck, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, guys. Okay.